Good morning and welcome to another Mr. Kilroy presentation on behalf of the Freedom Pages. Today, veteran psychiatrist calls liberals mentally ill. Well, I think I'm going to be a little more inclusive and I'm going to substitute liberals for progressives. That pretty much will encompass anybody that's left of center. So, let's go. Psychological causes of political madness. Now, there's a topic for you. Washington. Just when progressives thought it was safe to start identifying themselves as such, an acclaimed veteran psychiatrist is making the case that the ideology motivating them is actually a mental disorder. Here's a fellow that knows his stuff. Based on strikingly irrational beliefs and emotions, modern progressives relentlessly undermine the most important principles on which our freedoms were founded, says Dr. Lyle Rossiter, author of the new book, The Liberal Mind. The psychological causes of political madness. I know. He calls it, but again, I'll go so far as to say progressives. Like spoiled, angry children, they rebel against the normal responsibilities of adulthood and demand that a parental government meet their needs from cradle to grave. Well, that's the progressive movement in a nutshell right there. Well, political activists on the other side of the spectrum have made similar observation. Rossiter boasts professional credentials and a life virtually free of activism, and links to the vast right-wing conspiracy. For more than 35 years, he has diagnosed and treated more than 1,500 patients as a board-certified clinical psychiatrist and examined more than 2,700 civil and criminal cases as a board-certified forensic psychiatrist. Again, I love this guy's credentials. He received his medical and psychiatric training at the University of Chicago. Rossiter says the kind of liberalism or progressivism being displayed by both Barack Obama and his Democratic primary opponent, Hillary Clinton. Now, this is a little bit of old news here, but I thought it's appropriate to bring it forward because it makes the case that most people that stand on the other side of things, there's good reason for it, can only be understood as a psychological disorder. A social scientist who understands human nature will not dismiss the vital roles of free choice, voluntary cooperation, and moral integrity, as progressives do, he says. A political leader who understands human nature will not ignore individual differences in talent, drive, personal appeal, and work ethic, and then try, now this is what progressives do, they completely ignore it, and then try to impose economic and social equality on the populations as progressives do. And the legislator who understands human nature will not create an environment of rules which overregulates and overtaxes the nation's citizens, corrupts their character, and reduces them to wards of the states as progressives do. Dr. Rossiter says the liberal agenda, again, the progressive agenda, preys on weakness and feelings of inferiority in the population by creating and reinforcing perceptions of victimization, satisfying infantile claims to entitlement, indulgence, and compensation, augmenting primitive feelings of envy, rejecting the sovereignty of the individual, subordinating him to the will of the government. The roots of liberalism, or as I say, progressivism, and its associated madness can be clearly identified by understanding how children develop from infancy to adulthood and how distorted development produces the irrational beliefs of the progressive mind. That was a direct quote from the doctor. When the modern progressive mind whines about imaginary victims, rages against imaginary villains, and seeks above all else to run the lives of persons competent to run their own lives, the neuroses of the progressive mind becomes painfully obvious. There it is. Board certified. He's a forensic psychiatrist as well as a clinical psychiatrist. Now, he's more or less have said what many of us have said for a long time. Everybody on the far end of the spectrum want a nanny state. They want the government to be both mother and father and look after their children from the time they are infants till the time that it's time to give them plant them in the ground. Can't tell you. Wise people before that have said the same thing about it. Is Winston Churchill, that socialism is the philosophy of failure. Like, how much more obvious can it be? But anyways, people will continue on, and they will still whine about this, whine about that, and it all fits kind of comfortably. And we all know that many of the people that support gun control all stand on that side of the spectrum. Well, this is Mr. Kilroy for the Freedom Pages saying, have a wonderful day.